Welcome back to the TMCJ Podcast. We are now on segment 2, our media segment. And because it was Christmas this week, and I spent a good chunk of it away from home, we didn't watch a movie for movie night. Luckily.
We did not, alas.
Luckily, I did watch a few shows, though, with my parents when I was home for Christmas, and you've been playing quite a few games that you got in a charity bundle that you got.
Yeah, I've been trying out a whole bunch of different genres.
All right. Well, before we jump into the games, I do quickly
Shit
want
the
to...
bed. Oh, ow, I just burnt myself. Sorry.
What did you just do?
I don't know, I just kind of put my hand on my coffee cup and I forgot it was boiling hot.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so the show that I finally finished, because I had started this months and months ago, I think last year even, was a show called Jack Ryan.
Oh.
The Amazon...
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Is there, like, books about that?
There are
Or
books,
not?
yeah. It's a Tom Clancy series.
Yeah, I think my granddad used to read them.
Yeah, they seem like they're pretty good. I've never read the books, but the Amazon did a series, started in 2018. A friend of mine turned me on to the series, said it was great. Watched it. The first season, I just couldn't stop watching. Second season had like a slow episode, and something else came up. I think I was traveling for work at the time, and I just didn't pick the show back up again when I got back.
Right.
So anyway, I got my parents into it over Thanksgiving. They have been plowing through the series, and they stopped at the same episode I stopped at in season 2. So when I went home, we decided to watch it, and we watched the entire rest of the series. We watched like 6 episodes yesterday over Christmas.
Oh, shit.
But the series follows the titular character, Jack Ryan, who is an analyst for the CIA, and he's like either a former Marine or a former like some former Army soldier of some description. I can't actually remember what he was supposed to be in the show. I want to say he was a Marine, but I'm not positive. Anyway, he retires from that job to take this job as an analyst for the CIA. He uncovers in the first season this kind of larger plot and terrorist network. Season 2 focuses around regimes in South America, but the show's just very, very well done. They go to like some cool locations. Like they do a very good job of like writing good characters and having them be interesting. So it's free on Amazon if you have Amazon Prime. Highly recommend it. Just an excellent watch. It doesn't make some of the common mistakes with TV shows, and that's they have kind of an overarching plot, but they don't let that overarching plot dominate the whole season. They write the characters both good and bad interestingly, and they keep the action going, but it's not completely overwhelming. Like there's a bit of intrigue and like interpersonal drama, as well as some big explosions and action scenes and shootouts and stuff. It's just altogether just a very, very well done series.
Yeah, I don't really know how to go with that.
I know when we actually say something good about a game, movie, or TV show, we're just like, oh well, where do we go from here?
Yeah. I feel like I've got to be that, because normally I do that, well, but also they have these good aspects, but now I feel like I've got to come up with a negative thing.
We are much better at complaining about things.
I'm English, of course I can. I have heard it is kind of not very intellectually. It's a lot of shooty bang bang, and not much intrigue.
Yeah, it's definitely at its core an action series, but there is a level of intrigue, and if you're paying attention, you can see certain plot points coming. I remember I was watching it with my dad last night after my mother had gone to bed, and there was like it got to the end. It was the end of like the last episode in the second season, and there was a hint that had been dropped earlier in the series, and then he sees like this scene open up, and he sees like the Jack Ryan talking to this guy, and he just shouts out like, "Oh, this!" I don't want to say it because it would spoil the season, but there were several moments like that where they drop hints, and you can kind of see some plot points coming. So, yes, at its core, it's not meant to be an intellectual and intrigue kind of series, but there are elements of that.
Okay.
It's primarily action, but there are elements of that with enough to keep you engaged mentally, as well as just look at all the pretty explosions.
Yeah. And where did you watch it on?
It's on Amazon. It's an Amazon original, I believe.
Another +1 to Amazon. Indeed.
Amazon's winning this round.
Indeed. Yeah. Well.
I'm sure they'll have their turn on the hobbling wheel in a few weeks.
Yes. Well, they started on the hobbling wheel, so I feel like it's only fair. Sorry, stretching. Really unprofessional. So that's what you've been doing over Christmas. I have been, as was announced initially, I've been playing through a whole bunch of weird and wacky games from the charity bundle set, and some really kind of different. How can I describe it? So, like, I'm playing Rise of Industry, which actually you said you quite like the sound of it. It's a lot like Factorio. If you, instead of having like a barren alien wasteland you start with, it's a, it's North Yorkshire. There's a few nice little rivers. There's several like towns already set out around the map, and you bid for the right to build around those towns. And then there's a couple of other companies as well who get the other towns, and you through factories that kind of gather raw resources like wood cutting and places that pull water up. You then combine those ingredients to make products which you sell to the local villages or export to the far-reaching villages if they need it. And you grow your business empire until you have enough to like start bidding on particular business contracts or buying out the rights to another village, or even buying the stock of your rival companies so that eventually you can like consume their company.
Yeah, and this all does sound like something that I'd very much enjoy once I got into it. I'm a huge fan of those like needlessly complex kind of the ones that grow in complexity. That was the thing that I loved about Factorio. Was you started off with a pickaxe and a gun, and that was it, and you grew it into this massive, sprawling industrial wasteland.
I'm sure there is a mod where you can like arm the villagers of Yorkshire with like las cannons and march into the other people's territory, but that's not in the base game.
To be fair, Factorio isn't supposed to be a game where you're doing that. It just ends up that way sometimes when we play.
Yeah, it's a time pressure. I mean, the aliens are the equivalent of fellow business rivals.
And
then sorry?
No, I was just going to say, in that regard, this game adds an extra layer of complexity on top of because in Factorio you couldn't buy out the alien stock. You kind of had to blow them up.
I'm just picturing now like a Zergling with like the little nerdy glasses and a checkboard.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I played it so much. I played it for like I played it once, right? I played it for one day. But in that one day I played it for 17 hours. So I played through until completion. That was on normal difficulty. There are high levels of difficulty. So I'll probably return to it at some point. But yeah, so that was one of the games. A completely different angle. I was playing a game called Away, Journey to the Unexpected, which you have played the demo previously, so I'll let you start.
Well, I should clarify. I haven't played the demo.
Oh, you've got the demo.
So what I do for the play per Scott was saying that we should do this more often. Plug the YouTube channel. So this podcast goes up on the YouTube channel that I've had for quite a few years, and previously I had just uploaded things to it like what is it, like back when we played PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. I would upload stuff to that all the time. This was like 2017. But then I kind of stopped using the channel for a while, and it seemed like a good place to start hosting the podcast. So on Tuesdays now, I release this little mini-series I've been doing where I try out game demos. And basically it's just like a first impression thing. I'll play the game demo for like a half hour to an hour, edit down the video, and then just kind of give some final thoughts at the end of it. I downloaded the demo for this game because I wanted to... It was an option. I ended up going with something else for that week that I had downloaded this.
Right.
So I'd never actually ended up playing it.
Well, I would say... I mean... Maybe you're going to end up doing one after this. It feels like a really well-made college project. Okay? So, the visuals are very nice, I will say. Like, the way that... Because all the characters in the game are like 2D cutouts that are always facing you. Including like enemies that are charging towards you, bosses, all that kind of stuff.
But the environments are 3D, right?
Exactly. The maps are a very nice art style, and it's kind of a very basic like a Zelda dungeon crawling. You have 3 hearts, so the equivalent of 6 lives, and you go in and you whack people with sticks when they get too close to you. You collect 3 parts, which allows you to progress to the next area where you fight a big boss, and then you go into a different area. So,
yeah,
the idea that the gameplay is quite generic, but the visuals are very nice. It has a thing where you collect people along your journey. So the first one is like an old man that you find, and you, I guess, help him a little bit, or he just joins you anyway. And he's like, if you hit 2 on the keypad, then you switch to playing as him. But he counts as like a power-up, so he doesn't have any health bar or anything. But he can like summon fireballs. So rather than just whacking stuff with a stick, you can fire fireballs until he runs out of fireballs, then you can't use them again. Also, he's an old man with like these cracked glasses, so when you switch to his perspective, he's like a big crack on the screen the whole time. Kind of interesting.
So it's got some artsy bits to it.
Yeah, it's very artsy. That's why I was like, is this a kind of a school project? And I think I remember the music in it was really good as well, I think. Yeah, very pretty game, hack and slash. You don't need much thinking power, although one of the people you can get to follow you is like this robot, and he's like, prove you're a robot. Do this incredibly difficult math sum. And it gave me like 3 options, and I wasn't properly reading the question. So it was like some crazy number. And it was like a 7-digit number. And I just happened to RNG guess the right one. And I got this like insanely powerful mega robot as a follower.
Oh my god.
So I got to the end, because there's only 3 acts in the game. So I got to the 3rd act, and it was like, aha! You've made it to the final boss's room, but you can only go in when you've had at least 10 followers. So we're going to send you back in time to the beginning of the game, and we're going to keep doing that until you get 10 followers. And that's the point where I kind of dropped it. Cause
You didn't want to play through the whole game again?
Yeah, basically. Like, I enjoyed it, and I like the art style, but whacking stuff with a stick repeatedly does get a bit old.
Yeah.
It's very anime. As well.
I mean,
but yeah.
Just looking at some of the screenshots, it seems very, not just anime, but animated in general. Like, as in, there's a lot of color and vibrancy to everything around you.
Yes. It's definitely something that like, a kid would freaking love this game. It's got replayability, it's got a lot of fun characters, and, you know, it's not at all gory or anything like that.
Hmm.
That 3-year-old player. It wouldn't be very good, because it's quite difficult, but...
Well, you never know. I mean, yeah. I'm just thinking, like, back... going back and trying to play, like, some of the old games I used to play on the NES, or the N64 even, just like, holy shit, how did I beat this as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, like, the Crash Bandicoot games, don't think about playing again this week, maybe. Yeah, the original Crash Bandicoot game was super difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, what games that Mario 64, that's one, like, ridiculously difficult. And thinking back, the N64 controller, that thing was just this weird mutant abomination in terms of shape, but I don't know, it had such a unique look to it. I just really, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, again, it may be nostalgia, which I think is a bingo point, but I just really, I did like it.
That's a bingo point.
There was, so back in now that I'm doing it, the other game is like the original Mario games for the NES. Like, they're now available on the Switch. You can play them for free, and I was playing through them again, and I was having trouble beating like the first few levels. Like, I beat them, but I kept like missing platforms, or I'd fuck up and jump in between two enemies and get killed. Like,
yeah.
There was a lot of precision jumping in that game, and it was something that I think it was very much a product of practice, because I did play those games that was my only game back in the day. So
yeah, in the same way that like the Sonic 3D Burst is like super freaking difficult to jump.
Yeah, but
back in the day we had the time.
Yeah, you played it enough that it just started to feel natural.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of the Switch, there's a game that I bought this game for myself because while I was doing Christmas shopping, I was like, oh look, because it knew I was looking at video game stuff. It popped up with Civilization 6 for the Switch.
Oof.
And it was on sale for like $5, so I was like, fuck it, I'll grab it.
$5, hell yeah. I think I definitely didn't like Civ 6.
I don't know. It honestly, it's the perfect game for the Switch, I'm finding.
Yeah.
Because it's turn based and it's something I can just pick up and put down, like when the Switch is in mobile mode.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff going on the screen, so you do kind of have to zoom in, and if you don't have the best eyesight, then it probably wouldn't be ideal, but, you know, that's not me.
Yeah. I mean, I had Civ 4 for the PS3, and I did really enjoy that. That was a really good game.
It works well for the mobile format of the Switch, because I brought my Switch home with me over Christmas, and just like this morning I woke up at 4:30, so I was up before either of my parents, and I was like, I don't want to get out of bed just yet. So I grabbed the Switch and I played for a few turns on the game that I have running, and then just put it down and got up and started my day. I did the same thing before
turns
bed.
Being about an hour.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. I feel like it suits it well, but maybe that's just me.
Well, speaking of Civ, should we talk about the game that we played?
Yeah, the game we played for honestly, what was it, Christmas Eve? We played for like 6 hours, and it was one game.
Yep. They didn't normally get long. It's because we had the biggest map size on.
Yeah. So there was a lot more units in play. Yeah, the game Polytopia, which was also part of that bundle that you
Yeah, the
got.
battle for Polytopia. Yeah,
A battle for Polytopia. Sorry.
yeah. I always forget it as well. It's just in case people try to look it up. It begins with the.
Yeah, that was why I had trouble finding it.
Yeah, really good game, but I think you got maybe a little frustrated with it.
My problem with the game is the ending, right? So for instance, it seems like a game. I've found out that it was a mobile game first from my cousins. That it started off as a mobile game and then I guess came to PC, and that really shows in the way the game functions because it seems like a game that you would, because it is turn based, you would pick up and put down. Like you would pick up and like, oh, it's my turn, and you'd make some moves, and then you put the game down. And then when your opponent sees it's their turn, oh, they pick it up, they make some moves, they put the game down. And that does show in the way the game is structured, in their just the way that the turns go. There's a lot of little things to fiddle with on your turn, and then a lot of waiting time in between turns. I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. The problem I had was in the end game. So if it came down to just Blue and I, Blue had the significantly bigger empire, bigger army. I had more well-trained units, but he had more of them, and it just wasn't going to be a win. So I did what I would have wanted to do in StarCraft, which is if it's a one-on-one game or if you're in chess and you see that the game is lost and you want to concede, you cannot resign in the game. So if I quit, all that happens is then now Blue is fighting a bot. And I was annoyed by this. Well, I was like, if that's the case, I'd rather be there for the rest of the game and see it through to the end. The game doesn't let you rejoin after you've done that. So there's a resign button, but it doesn't actually let you resign. It just replaces you with a bot, so your opponent still has to keep playing. That annoyed me profusely, and again, I think that's part of its mobile game heritage. Because on a mobile game, that sort of thing probably would be a little bit more acceptable. I realize we haven't talked about the gameplay itself at all. Um, it's similar to Civilization, where you're building up like cities and towns and getting little soldiers to go out and find resources and collecting them and building
And
your
also,
cities up.
I will say that in Civilization they do the same thing where if you resign, then it gives your cities the bot. Like Civilization does the same thing.
Yeah, so maybe it's just me with my old-fashioned sensibilities, my StarCraft player's sense of honor and duty.
You old frickin' man.
Back in my day, when I quit, I was done with the game.
But yeah, one of the things that we were showcasing by playing that game was how broken the DLC armies are. And,
Oh yeah,
oh boy, are they broken.
oh yeah. They
Sorry,
they were, yeah. So there are what? There are three of them, right?
there's three of them, yeah. And I will say, I did, in true competitive nature, I did kind of, as I was going across the land destroying the enemy I was preparing all the time for my battle with you, because I knew you'd be the greatest threat. So I was getting out a lot of, what are they called? Cultist boys.
Yeah, the ice robe people with the antlers.
Yeah. A lot of them, and also I knew you'd have dragons, so tanks would be very ideal to deal with the dragons.
Yeah.
Um,
So, point being that the game does have a lot of. It's like a soft version of the Civilization games, where there's still a level of strategy to it, but it's much more along the vein of easy to learn, hard to master, whereas Civilization is potentially hard to learn, hard to master, because there's a lot of nuance in that. There's all these technologies and different resources and landscapes and political systems that you can put in play. There's a lot to it. This game is much more streamlined, where you've just got a few things you can do, a basic tech tree. There are certain resources that are unique to everyone. The DLC races do kind of throw things really out of whack, but Overall,
Because they have a completely different tech tree from every other race.
yeah, exactly. And they can do weird things. Like the DLC race I was playing is able to turn, like most races, if there's a whale in the water, you can harvest it for resources if you have the proper technology. For me, it was I turned them into unstoppable seaborne juggernauts.
Battle whale.
I can
Yeah.
make battle whales, which amused me to no end. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game. And despite my frustration at the ending, I felt very screwed out of the like seeing the proper end to the game. But
Yeah.
despite that, the gameplay itself is a lot of fun, but it will take you quite a while. I recommend if you play it in bits. Like
Yeah.
to play it like you would play like a long-term chess game online, or like you would play a game of like solitaire on like a not solitaire Scrabble on like a mobile app.
Yeah.
It's-
I mean, so that game took 60 turns. The like average for like a 1v1v1 maybe is about 15 turns, I'd say. So it can easily be under an hour a game. If you do go, biggest map with, I think we had, there was 4 AIs plus us, so that's six armies.
yeah.
That went up to 6 hours, like I said.
Mm.
So yeah. Shall I move on to another game, or?
Yeah, we've got a little bit more time left. I mean, let's talk about one more thing, and then we can kind of wrap up this segment.
Okay, the last, probably the most different kind of game I've been playing is... Oh, there's a few. So, pardon me. I've been playing a game called Shoppy Keep. That's like shop in an old-fashioned way of saying shop.
Yeah, like with a in the end. Yeah,
Yeah, SHOPPE.
yeah.
And it's basically you play as a kind of like an adventurer who's done his time out adventuring, and now he's just retired. He's got a shop, and you sell things to people going back and forth. So you sell like armor, weapons, depending on the kind of people that come in, whether they're mages, rogues, or warriors. They want different things. And you can kind of see what's popular at one time, so it might sell for more. You can change the price markups.
So there's actually quite a few games like that. I mean, in
Yeah.
a similar vein, like this shop management thing. Moonlighter is one I can think of. But go on.
Yes, this is in first person, and Moonlighter is like a third-person pixel game.
Yeah.
If someone tries to like steal from you, you can like zap them with electric before they escape. And yeah, I mean, you slowly get better items you can sell. You can have a little garden. You can get a bar attached to it. There's perk trees and everything.
Did Let's Game It Out play this game? Because it sounds really familiar. I think I've seen him play a similar like first-person
did.
like shopkeeper game before.
They may well have. It's quite popular.
Yeah.
And
Should
yeah,
point out
it's
Let's Game It Out being a gaming YouTube channel, an agent
Very
of chaos as you've described him.
yes, that is exactly what he is. It's just a very chill game. So like after you've played your Counter-Strike or something and you're like angry at Russians, you just go on this and sell potions of mana for a bit.
It's a nice unwindy game.
Exactly. I wouldn't recommend playing. Like, don't get me wrong, you do kind of end up getting dragged into it and playing for hours on end, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be just a very chill, popping on, gonna do one day of it, so that takes about like 20 minutes. Yeah.
And that's kind of why I liked what was it? Talos Principle. The Talos Principle. It was like a puzzle solving game, and that was my like calm, relaxing game because I'd play that on like Sunday mornings, and I'd just get up, play it for a few hours, and just solve some puzzles. There was like kind of just a calm, relaxed, chill atmosphere to the whole thing.
Yeah, there's no like inherent rush to the game. Like if they steal like half the items in your shop, then it's not really the end of the world. Um, yeah.
Oh my god. Well, there was one that something reminded me of. There was something I was just thinking about.
What game?
No, it wasn't a game because we were. So we have a little bit more time in this segment, and for that reason, I wanted to bring up one. Have you seen the Godfather movies?
Yes.
Okay, so the other thing that I saw over Christmas was the Godfather II. My dad had it on.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm?
Go on.
Yeah. So he had it on. I'd seen probably the first maybe 2/3 to a half of the movie,
Right.
but I hadn't seen the ending. So we watched it the whole way through, and it struck me again. Like just there's so much subtlety in that movie. Little things that you kind of pick up or that are implied. And I don't know. The reason I bring it up, and I'm struggling to think of a modern movie because in TV shows, like a lot of modern TV shows are honestly getting better than movies now.
Hmm.
But I'm trying to think of a modern movie that actually has that same kind of level of subtlety in terms of their storytelling. Like what I'm thinking is like there are scenes in the movie where um, you know Michael the main guy uh, in the Godfather 2, the son that's kind of taken over the Corleone family.
Wait, I
He
thought Godfather 2 was the one where it was the young Corleone.
that's in it too. So it flashes backwards and forwards.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the modern times, it's Michael Corleone with the family, and then it flashes back to the father, the Godfather, the previous guy, when he was younger and when he first came to the U.S. and how he first kind of made his big break and everything.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I'm not articulating this very well, but I feel like the movie does have quite a bit of depth in terms of how they're conveying the story, and
Yeah.
they leave a lot up to the viewer's imagination. Like at the end of the movie, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, big spoilers.
It's a bit
Um,
of an old film, Kaiser.
well, still, I like to say because it's a film that I still would recommend.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I recommend the first one, kind of the second one, not really
yeah,
the
the
third
first
one.
one is an absolute must see, I will say.
It
But
is. It's really.
the second one is also very good. I haven't seen the third one, but I've heard that it isn't
Uh,
quite as good as the other two.
yeah, iffy.
Yeah. So just my point is, at the end of the second movie, Michael Corleone has he's alienated quite a few people. He's seeing enemies everywhere. He's killed family. Like in the first movie, it was sort of their family versus their rivals and the people who wanted to take him down. In the second movie, it's more like internal conflict. And at the end of the movie, like he's had to do some, well, not even had to. He's done and ordered some pretty horrible things. He's essentially really ripped apart his family. Um, just to make sure that the enemies have been expunged, and the movie ends on him just sitting there and contemplating, like he's just looking off, and there's a lot of ambiguity to that, and it's kind of left up to the viewer's imagination what he's thinking. Like, does he feel like, oh shit, is he satisfied? Did he go, or is he like, you know, somebody who's sitting amongst the ashes, after they've burnt something down.
He's thinking, should I make a third film?
Yes, that's exactly what he's thinking. And as we maybe know, he made the wrong decision.
Exactly.
Um, anyway, just on that complete,
Was Jar Jar Binks a good character?
I, okay, no, I need to have a little bit of a rant about that because are you familiar with the Darth Jar Jar theory?
Okay. Guys, we have the... Right, I threw it in there because it was a stupid thing that he could be thinking of. Second of all, we have had this rant multiple times on the podcast.
Have we actually talked about it on the podcast?
Yes, we absolutely have. We both love Jar Jar Binks. You love the idea he's a Sith Lord working behind the scenes to, like, manipulate the Force.
Okay. I think that's just such a good fan theory. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It must have been on an earlier, like a really early podcast, because I do not remember talking about it at all.
It was about 5 podcasts ago.
It can't have been that recently.
Yeah, it was pretty recent.
All right.
Go on.
Well, our viewers could answer to tell us. Am I losing my memory, or is Blue losing his? Either way, I think that's where we can end segment 2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. This is the end of the second segment of the TMCJ podcast. We'll be back soon with segment 3, which this time we're going to be talking a little bit about New Year's resolutions in general, since this podcast is being recorded just before New Year's and will be released just after. So look forward to that. In the meantime, thank you for listening.